This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Welcome to episode 53 of Paranormal Dads. I'm your co-host, Eddie.
I'm Andy.
I'm Pat.
Join us as we go in search of the world's monsters, myths, and mysteries right here on Paranormal Dads. All right, episode 53. We are back. It's been a little bit, but hey, you know what? We're here. That's what counts.
Life happens. Yeah, it happens to everybody, right? You get busy, things happen. You carve out little chunks of time when you can to do the things you love. And yeah, we're back. Episode 53. I have to pre-apologize if my voice cracks. It is not me hitting puberty. I'm having some throat issues tonight. So I be forewarned.
It just makes you sound that much more luscious, Andy.
Thank you very much, Pat. Appreciate it.
That luscious Meyer with the smoky crackle in his voice.
Pat's the one with the radio voice that has the ladies swooning over him.
Oh, yeah.
We're swooning again on KVNO.
Look at that.
9.7 FM.
I want Pat to read me bedtime stories. I'm not kidding. Paranormal bedtime stories with Paranormal Dads. So yeah, it's been a while. We're all back in good form. Where we're at least, things are warming up. The snow is melting away. You know,
I'm very excited about that. This cold weather was really starting to get to me.
I took my dog for a long walk today, and there's so much melting snow. We dang near needed a boat to get down the path, man. It's almost flooded in certain parts. And, you know, here I am, one of the paranormal dads, and I'm out there on this trail. It's in the city, but it's kind of nature-y out there. And I keep looking left and right and looking over my shoulder. I've been listening to so many podcast episodes about the dog man. I'm half expecting a werewolf to jump out and, walk down the path towards me. You guys heard of Dog Man?
Oh, we are familiar. I think.
We've heard of him. That's for sure.
Werewolf. I can't get enough of it, man. I listen to these werewolf stories as I'm falling asleep at night. And that explains why I am the way I am.
Listen, some people count sheep. We count chupacabras and dogmen and
werewolves.
We're talking about we're talking about dog man, not dog, man. It's a whole different thing. Yeah.
Without further ado, should we jump in? I'm on bat for recent sightings this week, boys, and I have two of them for you actually coming up next. Okay, true to form, I don't just have two recent sightings. What I meant is I have two different topics that I'm going to talk about this time. I feel like we've been doing this a lot lately. We're sandwiching like double deckers and triple headers into each segment, trying to give all of you as much bang for the buck as we possibly can.
Right. Which is free. As much into the hour as we can.
Which is the high price of free.
Look at Eddie stroking his glorious mustache there. We're recording this remotely from our own homes, and I can see Eddie on the camera. And man, you grow that out in about another inch, you're going to have to get some of that mustache wax and kind of tip the ends upward like a noble gentle sir.
I think I need a monocle.
Who was the guy in Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze? Was that Sam Shepard? Sam Elliott. Yeah, you got a Sam Elliott going there, dude.
Thanks, buddy. I'll get a photo. I'll put it up on the site.
We'll have to put a picture up.
Be like, yay or nay.
But we digress.
We digress. Yeah. Recent sightings. And as always, I'm taking liberties with the definition of the word recent. But I recently made a Facebook post on my business page, Psychic Medium Andy Myers, if anyone cares to check it out. But, it was one of those nights I just didn't know what to post. So I was looking for some ghost stories, and I said, hey, what's the weirdest thing you've seen or experienced lately? And through the comments that came in, I saved a couple good ones, and we do this. Admittedly, I've done this before. Every few months, we'll use this as a recent sighting. But as people who enjoy good stories of the paranormal, I mean, this is straight from the horse's mouth. These are people with firsthand encounters. Everything from messages from heaven to ghost stories to a little bit of everything. So I'm just going to read a couple of these and we can discuss them if that's all right with you boys.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right. Lady named Linda wrote in, said, I had bought an estate sale home. It had a partially finished basement with cable for TV. I bought an elliptical trainer and set it up there. I would move the trainer around the room, rearranging because I thought I needed to. And then one day while on the trainer, I heard a very loud voice in my head telling me, look in the ceiling. So it was a tiled drop ceiling, she says. And she ignored it several times thinking, what the heck, that's weird. And then finally, she pushed aside the tile directly over her head while on the trainer because she was high up enough to do so. Mm-hmm. She found a canvas bank bag laying on an adjacent tile that contained a coin collection of super, super old coins.
Oh my gosh.
Nice.
So listen to the voices in your head, people. That's the moral of the story. It could be, who knows? Maybe it was her relative in heaven trying to tell her that. Maybe it was a guardian angel, but it's kind of it's odd, and it had a payoff, quite literally.
All this is gonna make me do now is just like chug a monster and start throwing my fist through drywall just to look for coin collections.
And he gets out the sledgehammer and just starts tearing his new house apart.
Like, you can't do that. Your name's not Kyle.
He goes crazy. It almost reminds me of he just like losing his mind, almost like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters movie. This means something.
This means something.
You guys come over, my entire walls just looks like a checkerboard of holes just thrown through it.
No, all he finds is a penny from 1947.
Exactly. I listen to the voices in my head.
That's right. So another girl named Summer wrote in, and she said, after my dad died, my mom gave my son some of my dad's clothes. My mom had gone to stay with family out of town and asked me to check on her house. When I went in, a picture of my son when he was little, it was a picture of her son with her dad, and it had been moved from the office across the house to the dining room table. She says, I asked my mom why she had placed that picture on the dining room table, and she said she didn't. No one had been in the house. In the picture, she says, my son and dad were wearing similar sweaters. And I am convinced dad moved the picture, and it was his way of letting me know that he knew my son had been wearing some of his clothes. I have numerous encounters like this, and I'm blessed to be a sensitive person to see spirits.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of
heartwarming.
Just like,
just kind of acknowledging that he's still around and aware of what's going on.
Yeah, totally. If you guys ever find misplaced items in your house, like, you find it in a place you didn't leave it. Of course, you both have teenagers, so they're probably...
I'm going to say, yes.
Yeah, if I find something where it doesn't belong, I usually figure, well, either I left it there or one of the kids moved it. So it's a pretty common occurrence in my place.
I have had the occurrence where you have an item that just goes missing. And
is it money? Is it money?
It's usually money. Oh, lately, yes. Absolutely. No, but like, let's just say your wallet or just something, and you look for it and you can't find it. And so for me, I've noticed this. I just get kind of quiet. Like before you get kind of frantic, you're like, where is anything? Why is my life a mess? And more often than not, it just turns up sometimes in the exact place that I was looking originally. And that over time, I almost started taking that as like a little message to like slow down and like look around me, because like, man, I know I flipped open that couch cushion. It's upside down still, right. Yeah. and why, it's interesting when those things happen for sure.
Yeah. And it's last we checked anyway, Eddie's sane. So, it's common sense. If it wasn't there and then it's there, you might have yourself a paranormal happening.
It's being debated still, but I'm still sane as of tonight.
Another lady named Deb wrote in, and she said, my dad passed away. My daughter was doing a video in memory of his life. He loved, so her dad loved attention. He loved to be the center of attention. And when they were sitting on the living room, ready to watch the video, her daughter said in a ceremonious style, that Dad would have loved. She said, "Pops, are you ready for the show?" And all of a sudden, the large house plant on the floor right next to the TV began shaking. She says we were shocked. She said they all said out loud, "Pops, do it again." And at that time, a large leaf bent down like someone took their hand and pushed it down to the ground. There's no doubt that Pops was right there showing us how much he loved the video of his life. And he was there to make sure that we knew it.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Give you goosebumps, right?
I tell you, especially when you get a repeat, when something happens and then you're like, all right, do that again. And then it happens again.
And it's, physical evidence. You can actually see something changing form or being moved.
Well, you can rule out coincidence if the presence is following directions, like do it again and then it happens again. It's proof that they can hear you and they're willing to play along with your game, right?
Right. That's a great story.
Rhonda wrote in saying there used to be a home in the country near Roca, Nebraska. You guys ever heard of Roca, Nebraska?
I'm not familiar.
Yeah, I know.
With Roca.
I know of Roca. Roca Berry Farms.
Oh, okay.
Roca's over kind of like a little bit south more of Lincoln, like
for our listener in Australia, this means absolutely nothing.
I know. He's like, Eddie, stop.
Anyway, so there's a home in the country near Roca, Nebraska that decorated their home for Christmas. People would come from all around to drive past it. Apparently, it had a lot of lights and everything. Rhonda says, one year we had just gotten done admiring the home and noticed something hovering in the sky. We and many others stopped to view it. It had bright lights and just stayed in the same spot for about 20 minutes. And then it was gone in a flash. Everyone talked to each other to make sure that they all saw the same thing. And they were all positive that they had just saw a UFO.
Wow.
I love that stuff. I love it.
And there was a comment on that comment. Somebody named Elizabeth responded and said, hey, Rhonda, I saw the same type of thing out there once when I was driving to school in the 1990s. Same area.
Same area.
Wow. That's not far from here.
Is it just a half hour, 45 minutes?
I'd say it's probably closer to an hour plus, but it's an hour, you go towards Lincoln and just keep going. It's a little south, I believe. And yeah, it's a little town in the middle of, the country, but
sounds like that could be a road trip for us.
It definitely does.
We've been, trying to put one together. Haven't been able to do it lately, but
was it 3-4 weeks ago? I reached out to Eddie and Pat. It was kind of last minute. I only gave you guys like a week's notice, and I was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Wisconsin and look for Dogman with me?"
Yeah,
and we couldn't make it work.
I wanted to. Yeah,
my sisters are up there, so I totally could have found a place for us to stay, but it just could not work it into the schedule. I think I was working that weekend, and I've got some doctor stuff going on that kind of, you never know when appointments are getting scheduled and that sort of thing. So
it's just as well we didn't go anyway, because it ended up being super icy and super snowy and cold. So we might not have made it back. Been eaten by Dogman up in Wisconsin.
That's one way to go.
So
I think it was shortly after that we went into the deep freeze here. It was below zero for 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was cold, man. It was quite literally, it was Arctic air, dropped down and swept throughout the Midwest. Check out this story, guys. This one is synchronicity or coincidence, whatever you want to call it. Deanna said, I have strange coincidences happen all the time, so much so that even my skeptical husband now believes that there's more than just coincidences going on. And she said, here's one of my faves. I was at a thrift store and came across a 1950s baby book, and it was loaded with pictures from birth to college. I got this feeling that I needed to buy it and return it. I located and contacted the son of the deceased man that it belonged to. He didn't know it existed, and I found it on his birthday. He had a hard time with his father's death and had been asking for a sign that his dad was okay. He said it was the best gift he had ever received.
Yeah,
man. See, those synchronicity, those events that kind of line up.
It defies statistical probability, doesn't it?
It really does. I mean, when does certain things start to become a repeating pattern? that you have to kind of start taking a look at. And there's a thing that I've been saying even now lately with hey, I get to drop this one with my girlfriend. Hey, look at me. There's
happy
this,
for you, buddy. So happy for you.
Everybody. Thanks, everybody. There's this thing that we've been saying back and forth, and it's like, at what point does it become, synchronicitous and also serendipitous, and when the intersection of destiny versus chance and those things, and at some point you just kind of shrug and go, I hear you, universe. I'm going along with this now.
It's proof that there's some order among life's chaos, right?
Certainly.
To be at the right place at the right time, to see personal meaning in things, and like, what are the odds out of all the thrift stores, out of all the items, she finds this thing on the guy's birthday?
Right.
So that's pretty wild.
It's
right.
Crazy. So here's one more comment for this recent sightings segment. And this is actually a friend of mine who used to be a radio DJ here in Omaha, and she since moved out to Arizona. But she said, New Year's Eve night, I was sitting under the stars by a warm fire. It was a clear night and dark beside the fire. And then I see this beautiful blue ball of light shoot across the sky. And she said she's convinced it's aliens.
Okay.
Okay, you live out in the desert in Arizona. Eddie looks crazy. You're trying to make your hair look like Giorgio Salukidis from Ancient Aliens.
It was the alien.
It's pretty close too.
Pretty close, dude.
Not too far off.
You get about 2 more inches on there. You could go for him as a Halloween, actually.
I should do that meme for Halloween, guys. Anyway, sorry, derailed you.
I was just saying, Jenny knows the difference between. She knows what a shooting star looks like. Okay, right. This wasn't a shooting star, and she says it's aliens, and I'd be inclined to believe people. Again, you got to take a person's credibility, and she's credible. She's not crazy, and. A lot of aliens, a lot of UFO sightings out there in the Southwest desert.
Think of the location. Yeah. You've got Area 51 right down there. And then also Phoenix is well known for the Phoenix Lights. And that was probably one of the largest mass sightings on record.
Yep. It's one thing if you got 1 or 2 people or even, a handful of people, but you have literally thousands of people reporting the same thing. You're like, well, I guess the jig is up. Come clean.
But never mind. It was just flares. That's all it really was.
Quick.
Anyway. Well, Jenny's comment about UFOs is leading me to the last part of our recent sightings. Speaking of UFOs, did you guys hear about the recent sighting where this was like last week. It was last Sunday. The American Airlines pilot saw a possible UFO flow right over their plane. This was on various news outlets. This got published all over the place. So the article says FBI is, quote, aware of American Airlines possible UFO spotting, but they stopped short of confirming investigation. So this was in northeast New Mexico last Sunday, I believe it was, but pilot was maneuvering a plane bound for Phoenix, Arizona. He was coming from Cincinnati, Ohio, and spotted a quick-moving, unusual flying object above them. And there was a radio transmission that, of course, recorded what they were saying. American Airlines actually confirmed to news outlets that the audio transmission was from flight 2292. They refused to comment on anything else, pretty much saying, check with the FBI if you have questions about this. So what the guy said after it flew over the aircraft and you can look this up, and maybe we could even find a way to insert this into the audio, but
have any targets up here? We just had something go right over the top of us that, I hate to say this, looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing moving really fast that went right over the top of us.
Now, American Airlines has confirmed that radio transmission. Pilots in this country are not known to see things. They see pretty well. And this comes just a year after the Pentagon released 3 videos of unidentified flying objects, you may know them as UFOs, recorded by Navy fighter pilots. It also comes in the same year as an astronomer at Harvard named Avi Loeb says, affirmatively, aliens have visited. It's not kidding.
Maybe it's some Martians upset that we're spending all that time on their planet.
It could be. I mean, but the fact we're spending billions to search for alien life, I mean, NASA also believes there is a chance, and some people say it's already happened.
The pilot talked to the control tower, and he said, quote, "We just had something go right over the top of us. I hate to say this, but it looked like a long cylindrical object that almost looked like a cruise missile type of thing. Moving really fast and went right over the top of us." And of course, air traffic control said they couldn't confirm anything. And it's interesting. It's cool to hear stories like this, but it gets to a point where it just leaves you feeling frustrated. Like, why can't the aliens just land in the middle of Times Square and just wave a how do you do? They're there. They're here. They're here. I just don't know. I mean, is there some sort of cosmic law that says they can't interfere with us or make their presence known deliberately?
There's so many thoughts out there. I mean, we've read them all. It's like, they're so advanced, they don't care. We're ants. There's a cosmic galactic alliance that we're actually a part of, and our government knows, and we don't because we're a bunch of worker bees. And yeah.
I think of the old man sitting by the side of the road in Close Encounters of the Third Kind with his, handmade cardboard sign that says "Stop and be friendly."
Yeah, I think they are friendly, because if they're not, they could have absolutely just blown our planet off the face of, blow our Earth off the face of the Earth. Is that a thing?
There you go.
They could have hurt us a long time ago, but they haven't yet. So, anyway.
It's interesting. I mean, we could talk about this for the next 10 years and just be still going.
Yeah, talking in circles. But anyway, there's a genuine recent sighting as a little addendum to the UFO comments on my Facebook page. So there you go. A little bit of ghost stories, some synchronicities, some lights in the sky. And that's all I've got for recent sightings this week, boys.
All right. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Eddie. And here we go.
Coming up next is pop culture and the paranormal. And I think Mr. Pat is on for this one, correct?
I'm ready to pop.
It's time for pop, culture, and the paranormal.
So this time around, recently, I think as soon as, or as recent as last weekend, we had an event here in Omaha called the Home and Garden Show. And this is also the time of year I start thinking about another annual event called the Boat Sports and Travel Show that's always here in the Omaha metro area. And it always gets you kind of your brain spinning and thinking about springtime. And so I thought what I'd do is to look into paranormal themed convention shows that could be going on this time of year as well. And I come to find out there's kind of a mixed bag, especially with the whole COVID thing going on. There's some shows that have been canceled, others that are scheduled to they're going to go on, but they're going to go on later in the year. Others have moved to more of a virtual type format. So I figure I'd go down the list of some of the interesting ones I found, and we can just kind of discuss some of these. The first one is down in Savannah, Georgia. It's called the Haunted Savannah Paracon. This is actually going to be the first ever Paracon event. That one's been rescheduled to September of 2021. So they bill it as a fun-filled paranormal weekend with special guests, lectures, Q&As, crystals, vendors, and haunted objects. They'll have 2 paranormal investigations at historic 1800s locations, and haunted ghost tours, an illusion act, and more. So they actually brought some pretty big names in for this one. A guy by the name of Dalen Spratt. He's from the show The Ghost Brothers, as seen on the Travel Channel. and he's also on TLC and Destination America. And also a couple of my favorites, Greg and Dana Newkirk. They are best known as the curators of the world famous Traveling Museum of the Paranormal and the Occult, and also a new documentary series called Hellier, which you can watch on Amazon Prime has it.
Yeah, it's on Prime.
So that'd be pretty cool to see those guys. I know they do a lot of shows and conferences and things like that.
And Georgia is a pretty haunted state in general. I mean, you think of Georgia and you think of the kind of swampy, moss-covered trees. You know, you got down there on the old plantations and a lot of weird energy. Yeah, it's a lot of very historic state.
Yeah, weird energy. Of course, you know, a lot of the battles of the Civil War were fought in and around Georgia, and so a lot of ghosts lurking around down there.
They also filmed Walking Dead there as well.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, the whole show has been filmed in Georgia this whole time.
And the Dukes of Hazzard as well.
And the gosh darn Dukes of Hazzard. Book boys are in trouble again. Here we go.
Just jump it with your car. It'll be fine.
Old Bo Luke stole Sergeant Queeg's strawberries. We're going to be in trouble.
Anyway, if you want to go more westerly and northerly, you can go to the Oregon Ghost Conference and an event they're putting on this year called Ghost Week. And I think they're kind of taking a kind of a play on terms, kind of like Shark Week. Mm-hmm. This is actually going to be a virtual event, and it's set for March 21st through the 28th. And the 2021 Ghost Conference that was supposed to take place at the Seaside Civic and Convention Center in Seaside, Oregon, will now take place mostly virtually. The conference will present a week-long event called Ghost Week. They hope to still offer some ghost tours in Seaside and Astoria, which I've always wanted to go to Astoria, home base for the Goonies, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
And for those who still want to take a trip to the beach, you know, you can still head out that way, and they might have some tours going on there. So that'd be. Plus, you're right out there in Squatch Land. You could go, one of the forests out there and do some squatching. And
oh, dude, I've been to Astoria, Pat. It's beyond gorgeous. One of the most beautiful. Just the whole Pacific Northwest. You know, I was in the Hoh Rainforest in Washington and Astoria. You know, you get onto some of those winding coastal roads, you know, and I remember being up there and had to pee really bad, but gas stations weren't, you know, nowhere to be found. So, you pull off on some of these logging roads, you know, and to relieve yourself. It is so whisper quiet in those forests. I mean, I found myself literally looking over my shoulder as I'm going to the bathroom because you just expected there to be a Bigfoot. It was super squatchy.
It's so weird. I'd never been in the Pacific Northwest, but anybody who's listened or whatever, I grew up a good chunk of my life in upstate New York, at the base of the Adirondack Mountains, which, you know, is still pretty squatchy.
Yeah.
More Canada-like than anything else. Little Canadian joke there, but it's not as humid and like arid as maybe the Pacific Northwest is. It's just more cold.
Yeah.
But same thing, guys. Like you were saying, like you get out there into those forests that are at the base of those mountains, and eventually you're kind of like, I'm getting looked at.
Somebody's watching me.
Someone's watching me. Go to the bathroom. Get out of here. Well, what I noticed, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, there's times you go out in those forests and you hear we had that on our Bigfoot hunt that we can almost talk about now.
Almost.
Because our confidentiality waivers are about to expire.
That statute of limitations is coming up fast.
Yeah.
Was it 5 years? Was that what it was?
It was 5 years, yeah. What's it been now? 4 years? Has it been 4 years?
And change, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if you remember, there's times we'd be walking around and the birds would be just chirping away and they're ignoring us. And there's pockets we get into and they would just shut up. Just boop.
Yeah.
That's the telltale sign there's an apex predator somewhere nearby.
Yeah. Something's going on. Anyway.
Of course, they could have just been looking at Eddie, too.
That's it. That's a little Bigfoot. Look at him.
He's so hairy, he's one of us.
One of us. I get carried off, guys. This isn't funny.
So, so speaking of the Adirondacks and then the East Coast, you could go to the 2021 New England Parafest. It will be coming to the Kittery Community Center April 10th and 11th in Kittery, Maine. This 2-day event features presentations and vendor tables. And some of the topics they're going to explore during their breakout sessions are America's Stonehenge, the haunted USS Salem, which I assume is like a haunted ship. They're going to show a documentary called The Soul of the Sea Witch, followed by a Q&A. A Connecticut paranormal research team will be there. A person by the name of Kristen Evans will be there to speak on the Bridgewater Triangle, which is something I've always wanted to kind of break out as a main mystery for our show, which is just kind of this creepy area out on the East Coast, like New York, New Jersey, kind of out in that neck of the woods where just strange things have happened. They're also going to have some Bigfoot researchers, some it sounds like more local authors and radio and TV hosts. So that sounds like a good time.
I like the variety. It's like
it is.
I want a booth of UFO. Yeah, sure, UFO. Yeah, Bigfoot. Sure, you got the chupacabra tent. You got the abominable snowman people, and
exactly.
The more the merrier.
4:15 to 5 o'clock. We got demonology.
Baba Yaga's coming in at 2:45. He's only here for 15 minutes. You better hurry up.
This is really ironic timing that you're doing this for a pop culture today, Pat. Like literally just a couple hours ago, I was informed that a local health expo or paranormal expo of some kind here in Omaha is trying to round up people to host a booth and speakers, and the organizer of the event reached out to my office to see if I wanted to be one of the featured speakers. But it's just in a couple months, and I'm just not quite ready to be around that many people.
Yeah,
I agree.
We went into a restaurant tonight, thinking, let's just kind of test the waters, and it was just a little too crowded for my liking. Although my wife and daughter have both been fully vaccinated now as of today.
There you go.
But still, I'm still taking my, it's Russian roulette when you go out there. And I wore a mask a good chunk of the time I was in the restaurant.
I'd be like putting mozzarella sticks underneath my mask. I'd be eating with my mask on.
I think I need to wash my mask after this.
You're just pouring marinara in the crack between your face and the mask.
My daughter Sky did that actually. My brother came in town, and they've been super, super careful. So, if we had a couple family members over, we all wore masks, for my brother's sake mostly. And my daughter Sky, she's sitting at the table with her mask on, and she's eating pistachios. She's just throwing them over the nose piece down the hatch and like funneling them down into her mouth. I'm like, it's pretty genius, kid.
There you go.
Yeah.
So there's another one. There's one going to be in Arkansas called the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. It's a benefit supporting the MacArthur Museum of Arkansas Military History. And yes, it is Douglas MacArthur. Apparently the building, which was built in 1840, is listed on the National Register of Historic Places and is the birthplace of General Douglas MacArthur. And so this event is raising funds to help preserve the building. The expo has grown to be the biggest and most popular event of its kind in Arkansas. The APE, I love that acronym for the Arkansas Paranormal Expo. Organizers are adding even more vendors and speakers. Subjects such as UFOs, Bigfoot, cryptozoology, psychic phenomena, and ghost hunting will take the stage, providing in-depth education and intriguing insight.
Man, there's a lot of these around the country. There's just hundreds and hundreds. They can in terms of variety, it's kind of nice. I tell you what, as a as a business owner who's had a booth at some of these expos, man, they can get kind of pricey if you want to represent your business and, hand out some business cards at these things. I'm sure the price has been dropped a little bit due to COVID and everything, but it's nice that there's so many of these things nowadays. I mean, not just paranormal expos, but Comic-Con and it seems like no matter what hobby you're into, there is an expo or there's a convention center gathering of like-minded people. It's kind of the beauty of today's world, all these little subgenres that allow people, weirdos like us, to feel more accepted by our peers, right?
And the funny thing is, when you talk about the paranormal, it's hot right now. There is so much going on. You just have to turn on the TV and every other channel has something paranormal going on. They might as well rename the travel channel the Paranormal Channel, because that's essentially what that channel is these days.
24/7. That's all it is.
UFOs, Bigfoots.
It's more
ghosts,
of that than anything else.
And hey, I'm not complaining. I love it. I sit there and watch that stuff all weekend. But it's good to know we are not alone. So
exactly.
Here's one I thought was kind of interesting. The 2021 Afterlife Conference. This will be a virtual conference again this year. It was virtual last year as well. It's join us online June 24th and the 27th. The Afterlife Conference has served as an educational and social and spiritual gathering place for those seeking to learn more about death and beyond. While other conferences have followed our lead over the years, we maintain the distinction of being the original Afterlife Conference. And they actually have listed, it sounds like this one kind of moves around. They've had it in Phoenix, Virginia Beach, St. Louis, Orlando, Salt Lake City, Chicago. They just kind of move this one around. So that sounds like a
traveling con.
Interesting time. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Olympics, right? You get they take turns letting people host it.
Yeah, who gets to host it? I'm sure Omaha would be chomping at the bit.
Yeah,
to get some of these conferences. Yeah. So finally, the last one, you can't let this one go. The 33rd Ozark Mountain Virtual UFO Conference.
Ooh, virtual conference.
It's a virtual conference. And it's in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, which I have to say is one of my favorite places I've ever visited. It's just this little town out in the middle of the mountains in Arkansas, not too very far from Branson, but it's home to one of the most famous haunted hotels. You can go and take ghost tours and things there, but it's just this quaint little town built into the side of a mountain, basically. And it's a very cool place, especially if you go in there, to see the fall colors, which we've done a few times when we lived in Kansas City, and also we had family down there for a time. So we went down to visit them. The cool thing about this one, this virtual conference, it's 2 days of speakers featuring George Norrie as the keynote speaker. So he's well known as the host of Coast to Coast AM, Art Bell's former show. So there's still a lot going on, even though we're not fully back to normal yet. Keep your eyes open, and when you decide to test the waters, just know that this stuff is out there waiting for you.
And now it's time for the main mystery.
All right. Welcome to the main mystery, everyone. Light your candles, sit back, put on your Bigfoot slippers. I know Andy has his on. And get comfy. We're going to talk about something that I've been doing, and as Andy pointed out, this is a personal main mystery. For the past almost year, I've been doing kind of a daily meditation. Part of my daily meditation has been a daily tarot card pull, as they would say, as people would say. So we're going to talk about tarot cards on this main mystery, and a little bit of a shout out to people who may be practicing tarot. And hey, if you have questions or are curious, I mean, I can help with some of that stuff. And we can as the Paranormal Dads. And we'll just speak plain too on things that we don't understand or don't know. We'll be like, I don't know. What do you think?
Speaking of I don't know, Eddie, in layman's terms, how would you spell terror or tarot?
Tarot?
Is it terror? Like
ooh, tarot card.
That's a deck of them terror cards.
Or tarot cards as in rip. T-E-A-R. No, tarot, T-A-R-O-T. The T is silent.
It
looks like tarot. It is fancy, just like me. As we've established, Beef Wellington Fossler over here.
And fancy mustaches.
And fancy mustaches. If you want your very own canister of Paranormal Edgar's mustache wax, just email us at paranormaldads@gmail.com.
No, don't really.
Paranormal Edgar. I love it.
That'd be great if we had a Paranormal Edgar's mustache wax. I'm just saying, if we do.
Comes in a little silver tin.
We do have Paranormal Dad stickers that you can request if you email us nicely and ask for a Paranormal Dad sticker.
If you ask really nicely, Eddie will pluck out a mustache whisker and mail it to you free of charge.
Little mustache hair in there for you. So getting
just
back
like
to
David did in Australia, and we sent David a Paranormal Dad sticker.
He did.
Hey, we're the real deal here.
This sucker went overseas.
And I'm sure David put it right on a koala.
Right on the back of a koala. I want to have a picture of David sharing on Facebook where he put his sticker.
That's right.
Safe to
Come
show.
on, David. Don't hold back. Of course, you might not. We sent it ground, so you might not get it till next year.
And the irony is the sticker cost 75 cents to make. It cost $17 to ship.
Yeah.
So I do a daily tarot card pull, and there's different formations you can pull these cards out in. There's different shapes and layouts, and the different layouts will kind of like allow different they're called spreads. Different spreads of cards will allow different ways to read them. I do a very simple pull. I do what they would call a 2-card pull. Some people do 1 card. They pull 1 card in the day. This is my card for the day, and they put it down and go about their day. I do a 2-card pull, which and there's so many tarot card decks. There's so many. We could do an entire podcast on the various type of tarot card decks.
I just gotta ask, do they have a Star Wars one?
Oh, you know they do.
Oh, I know they do.
Yoda would be the best one. Yoda would be the best card to pull. If you pull a Yoda, you're gonna have a good day.
Yep. I won.
If you pull Jar Jar, though,
that's
that's not good. Not good for you. Stay home.
Yeah. If you pull the broiled potato version of Anakin Skywalker,
means it's going to be a hot day. So what deck do you use, Eddie? What version do you use?
I use, and this is not a video podcast, but I'll put a picture.
But he's showing it to the camera.
I know, the Wildwood Tarot. And the Wildwood Tarot, tarot cards that vary on the traditional deck. And the traditional deck is one that most everybody who's listening to this podcast certainly has seen, or maybe even had a tarot card reading. We can all picture that kind of iconography in our head of the classical or classic tarot card deck. And the thought behind it, and this is stuff that I initially learned from a friend of mine back in the day, and she was pointing out, like, you really kind of want to pick a tarot card deck where the imagery kind of resonates with you. Like you see the imagery and you're like, I like this imagery. It speaks to me. Versus some of the classic tarot, I don't know. It has that old, like kind of woodcut, like medieval art style to it. And some of the images don't really make much sense. They don't speak to a person. And so for me, a good friend of mine, Jesse, recommended I might enjoy the Wildwood Tarot. And so I picked up a copy of it and really love it. And what it does is it takes traditional tarot cards and gives them counterparts that are tied to kind of European mythology and folklore.
So you mean like dragons and stuff like that?
dragons and Arthurian type stuff and imagery, and like even animals that are in Europe, things like that. That kind of become their own kind of iconography. And even in this tarot card deck, they do have counterparts that are per traditional tarot, but they tie the deck to kind of this pagan Celtic wheel of a cycle of a year, so that each house of cards kind of ties into a specific season of the year. So it's divided into 4 quadrants, and each suit of cards kind of has their own kind of ebb and flow for the season that we're all in.
Oh, that's kind of cool. So you're not pulling the same cards all year long. You've got there's summer cards and spring cards and fall cards. Well, not necessarily
There are,
but it.
Yeah. So the meaning, so you could pull say like a summer type card in the winter, but it would be like you are experiencing some sort of summer style event in your life, even though everybody else is having, we're in the time of winter. I'm kind of breaking it down, but the idea with this, the reason behind this is because, and we're all experiencing the same, globe crushing pandemic, that we're all in the same boat here. And for me personally, this is where it gets a little personal. It became a way for me to do kind of a daily timeout meditation, kind of reflection on what I'm kind of going through,
Mm-hmm.
And I do mine in the morning because it gives me a chance to kind of just live my day. And then at the end of the day, kind of reflect on the cards that I drew that morning.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of yeah.
So you said you pulled 2 cards, Eddie. So is what do they represent? Is like one, do you get to choose whichever one you like best, or does one represent the morning and the one's for the evening? How does that work?
I'm glad you said something, Andy. So with the 2 card pull, what it represents, at least from the people that I've kind of studied under, is that I'm going to draw a picture. The 2 card pull kind of is like an arrowhead. And so the first card number 1, would be the base of the arrow, and the second card is the tip, the pointy end, if you will, the ouchy part. And and so the idea with the 2 card is that if you look at your day as a directional arrow, like I am moving forward in my day, the base of the arrowhead is the first card you pull. Mm-hmm. And the tip of the arrow is the second card. And the idea being that these cards are kind of like working together to kind of clarify the point of your day. Like this, not so much future telling. And this is where I was like, the great thing about tarot is that you can use it any way you see fit. You could use it as a way to kind of almost as a divination tool if you wanted to. Or you could use it as more of a reflection tool to be like, I want to look at this and use these cards as a chance for me to kind of look at my day and look at parts that could have gone better. I could have been better, whatever. What do I need? What am I experiencing? And so the 2 card pull kind of does that motion. If you've seen Back to the Future and you have that arrow pointing that way, that's the idea of the 2 card spread. It's more pointing you in a direction. And like I said, I do it almost a little bit of a mix of both, maybe a little bit of divination light with more of a reflection kind of mindset on it. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so is there, and I know this, I'm like genuinely asking, I'm guessing Pat's not too familiar with tarot, and even myself as a psychic medium, I'm not at all familiar with tarot. It's just not a technique I've ever learned about or used. So is there like a good card, are there cards that are better or worse than others, or is it all about the interpretation?
This is where I've realized that this is kind of like a skill too. Like over time, you kind of start to this sounds like you get a feel kind of for where a person's at, because I've done my own stuff, and sometimes you're your own worst interpreter, and this is where it gets a little bit funny. I've done tarot card pulls for people who I've just met, which is kind of funny because the subject comes up somehow in conversation, and I happen to have my deck with me, and I'm like, I'll do one right now if you want. And we've done that. And the funny thing about it is this is a person I've literally just met, and I do a tarot card pull, and I talk to them about what I feel like what we got out of that two card, not a whole bunch. And I look up at this person and they got like tears in their eyes. And I'm like, and in my mind,
something hit home. You struck a nerve. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, I was just reading the cards, man. And so I've had that happen a handful of times with people I've met in my little journey here since last year, and some of them people I literally just met, and I'm like, well, let's do it. It'll be fun, And in some cases, you land on some stuff with people that maybe is a little more personal than I even realized, and it's like,
No, you're a super intuitive guy, though, Eddie. I mean, I think everyone has varying levels of intuition, but I've always thought you're incredibly intuitive, and not to not to flatter you or turn the spotlight on you, but I think one of the reasons that makes you so intuitive, Eddie, is you're an emotional person, for one. You're emotionally intelligent, and you kind of wear your heart on your sleeve. And in my opinion, I think psychic abilities are linked with the intuitive side of ourselves. So usually when you have somebody who's really warm and sincere and is comfortable talking about emotions and feelings, you've got a person who's going to be able to easily access his or her intuition. So,
I appreciate that, Andy.
Yeah, you are. You're super intuitive, dude. So
look at me blush. No, it's actually been really beneficial to me personally, and it's been kind of interesting to see some people's reactions to it. It's funny, Pat, you mentioned this. It seems like there's almost this like awakening to the other world from people lately, especially being more open to things that maybe aren't right there in front of their eyes. The spiritual world, the paranormal world, and so yeah, when I've said things like, yeah, I do a daily tarot card pull, and unashamedly I do it, and there's more often than not people are really interested in that. They're like, oh wow, tell me about that. So the idea being behind it is that it's really just a tool, and it's a tool that allows you as a person who's doing it or having it done for you, that will just give you a little bit of a perspective on something that maybe you need clarification on. Yeah, yes, no, good, bad. So to answer your question, Andy, in my opinion, there really are no bad cards, because you could pull the death card. And a lot of people just through movies and books and stuff like, the death card, that's the worst of the cards.
It's the last card you'll ever pull, buddy.
And the imagery on the death card isn't necessarily a pleasant image. It looks kind of scary. But the idea behind it is that it could be a death of anything. It could be the death of a relationship that you needed to say goodbye to. It could be the death of a job that you need to quit. It could be, there's a lot of death, and some of it isn't necessarily bad. And sometimes there are like bad, what I've noticed is not bad, but there's like, people are like, is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing? And for people who know me personally, it's been a year.
And been a doozy of a year for you. Yeah.
And within that, what I've learned is, it really is an interesting perspective of what is good and what is bad. I think it was you, Andy, who told me the story. It was this old proverb from some culture where it was like this man won a horse in a lottery in his town, and they were like, oh, look how fortunate you are, you won a horse. And he's like, oh, we'll see. And the horse got sick, and they were like, oh man, now you got a horse you got to pay for bills and the vet, that stinks, that's bad luck. And he's like, oh, we'll see. And because the horse got sick, it clued him into some weird poison in his grain, so he saved the other animals, and they're like, how fortunate that the horse survived. And then he fell off the horse and broke his leg, and they were like, what bad luck this is. And then there was a war, and all these guys got drafted into the army, and he didn't get drafted because he had a broken leg. And they're like, how fortunate. And it's really
what an emotional roller coaster ride.
I know. I'm like, I'd be really sad, period. But that guy's got bad luck.
Now I know why I don't ride horses.
Don't ride horses. That's the lesson.
That's what Pat got from the story. Man, I'm never getting on a horse.
I'm staying away from the horses.
They're like giant dogs. But the idea being is really, it's like, and this sounds so but things feel really rotten when you're going through them. until you're through them, and then you have the hindsight, and then you can be like, it's the classic. If you're going through hell, just keep going.
Yeah.
But with these cards, I mean, there are cards that look really ominous, and they could probably feel that way if you're currently going through a thing. But the perspective to have sometimes, and as much as you can have, is, maybe this thing that's happening that feels bad is going to be good for you if you're given enough time.
So when a person's picking a 2-card or a 4-card or 5-card spread, is that's kind of an intuitive process as well, right? You're not randomly assigned these cards. You let your fingers kind of guide you to whatever one you feel you need to choose out of the deck that day, right?
Yeah, so I get a little bit more. I figured this out too, and this is where I get a little rogue, because leave it up to me to be a little rogue here. Is like, as I'm doing this, I realize I'm like, this is just like church. There's no wrong way to do this, and so traditionally people will like shuffle the deck, stack it one stack, and they'll have you draw off the top, or in some cases go into the deck and pull out where you want to. And it's in that mind that I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take this deck and I'm going to break it up into 4 little mini decks, and then let whoever's picking pick out of those 4, even randomizing it even more in a way,
Sure.
And giving that person a chance to kind of, oh, wow, so I have 4 different. So really you're kind of given a little bit more of a chance for entropy to kind of enter in a little bit. The thing that I found, the thing that really got me on the boat with the daily tarot was I started seeing patterns come through. And this is where, like, we were talking about synchronicity and timing and coincidence. And when I was going through ostensibly some of the most worst stuff I was going through, I'm pulling these cards and I'm getting like the same cards almost every day, sometimes every other day, but certainly during that week, I'm pulling out of an 70 plus card deck. I want to say 76 cards. I'm pulling the same 2. Like, how is that? And I'm shuffling the heck out of this deck. Like, I am not playing around. I don't want to get the same cards,
Like we said earlier, it defies statistical probability, right?
Absolutely. And
you had your Rain Man game going.
I did. He
could read into a 7-card deck.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so I started taking pictures of my cards every day just so I could kind of go back and look for the pattern that I would see. And sure as anything, there was definitely kind of this rhythmic kind of message almost coming through. And this is where, the quote I was trying to come up with that my girlfriend and I threw at each other. She said it actually was like, you'll find miracles if you can look for them,
I like that. It's so true. It's so true. People who look for meaning find meaning. People who raise a skeptical eyebrow at every little thing, they not only do they not find synchronicity and meaning, it's almost a really jaded way to go through life. Like, look up, look down, look all around, keep your heart, keep your eyes and your ears open. People who do, you tend to peel the onion back a few layers deeper than your peers.
Exactly. Maybe we're supposed to have a little bit of magic in our lives, or a lot. And so anyway, doing this as a daily practice, it has really reaped some insight benefits into my life and to others as well. And I'll put a link up for the Wildwood Tarot. But like I said, the imagery is very cool. The art style is very neat. The cover of the book that it comes with is kind of neat. It shows this is the hooded man. And the hooded man is one of those like introspective, like you're in a time of like thinking and kind of puzzling and thinking about your life, where you're at. What I like about this one is that there's kind of an air of hope throughout the entire deck. Even with the death card, there's like this air of like, you know what, this sucks for now. It's not all doom and gloom,
Well, and this topic we're discussing, this is ancient. I mean, not just tarot, but tarot card like, processes. People, in ancient Asia reading tea leaves, mystics looking into a crystal ball to try to predict the future, which that The verb of that is called scrying, by the way, when you're looking into a crystal ball. But, crystal ball, tea leaves, tarot, things like that. Human beings, for as long as humans have been human beings, have been looking for ways to gain new insights and new perspectives about the past, the present, and the future. So it's been around forever. In one form or another, it will continue to be around forever. And I guarantee there's even modern day digital versions of this. Hell, there's probably an app where you can do tarot. And it's cool. It's cool. And, if it benefits you, you can't say it's bad, right? If it's improving your life, even in a small way, Eddie, then keep doing it, right?
I've said good trees bear good fruit. And that's not even me. It's a Bible quote right there. You put that in your, but it's serious. It's like you judge something off the results. And that's actually a science thing right there too. It's like, if you are yielding positive benefits from something, then here's the newsflash. It's probably good for you.
Right.
And if you're yielding negative, then it's probably bad for you. Don't do that. Stop that. and so that was exactly my thought, was like, hey, at the end of my day, I reflect on my day. That's good. At the beginning of my day, I stop for a minute and kind of take a moment to get quiet and focus on my day. That's good too. I happen to do that using these. That's bad. No, it's not.
Well, you get different opinions. Conservative religious extremists might think it's the devil's work, but I'm going to venture a guess that most people listening to our show are pretty open-minded about everything from abominable snowmen to tarot to messages from the spirit world. So we've talked a little bit about everything throughout today's episode.
This is a veritable cornicopia of paranormal powerhouse. I will put this out there, actually. Talk about receiving and being open to things. I think it'd be fun to do a live tarot thing on our Facebook page for anybody who wanted to do that. I'd be more than willing to do that for maybe half hour or so, and go for it.
That'd be fun. Yeah, super
do our
interactive.
own little virtual event.
I'll start with you guys first.
All right. So just want to give a shout out to some of our listeners who we've kind of kept in touch with over the past month or so, reached out to us, gave us some great comments. Maggie and Brianna, David, all you guys, we hope you're doing well and staying warm and looking forward to spring, just as we all are.
Yeah. I don't know how Australia winter works. Is it opposite us?
Well, that's
it's
true.
Opposite. Yeah.
He's,
So right now
he's probably dreading. Summer's probably coming to an end, and
I say, doesn't it snow in June? I think so.
Well, thanks to everybody just for listening and for supporting us. And as always, keep checking our social media outlets for interesting content, and you can always reach out through email. Drop us comments, suggestions for future main mysteries, what have you. And it's a real blessing to be able to do this. So we're glad people listen.
Yeah. No, this is fun. And like Andy said, life kind of gets a little nutty, but we're always going to make time for this, and we enjoy it. And we'll keep making these fun podcast episodes.
All right. Shout out to everyone at freesound.org for providing us with some of the music and some of the sound effects that we use. And anything else, boys?
Just check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and the old Facebooks. We've been having some people message us through those different platforms, and that's been fun. And also, I said this once on our Instagram, but check us out. We are on Spotify, and I know a lot of podcasts have moved to Spotify exclusively. And we are on Spotify as well, and a lot of other platforms as well. So but if you like Spotify, we are most definitely there. And also, hey, recommend us to some friends who you think would enjoy our stuff.
All right. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
All right. See you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye. They were like, did they take this guy to the right place? Shouldn't he be at the zoo?
Meant to go to the zoo.
he wakes up and he's at a dog grooming place. They're just shaving him.
That's inside a kennel next to a Labrador.
This guy's supposed to be seeing Dr. Simmons, not us. Okay, now I'm ready.
And go.
He's like...
There's my prize for the good old insurance company for turning 40. I got to pay 25 extra bucks a month.
Mr. Major Birthday.
Jerks.
Right. So from all of us to Andy and all you listeners, let's sing him happy birthday right now. Happy birthday to you.
Cha-cha.
Happy birthday to you. The lag is great. Happy birthday, dear Andy. Paranormal stud you. He's single, ladies. Happy birthday to you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it very much.
40? You sure you're not more like farty?
I will be later because I have some chicken burritos waiting for me upstairs in the fridge.
There it is.
There you go. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.